checked the other day. We still have about 198 blocks to go. It's right. Oh.
Unusual, but this, I look at this
Yeah.
only time you're ever going to get.
That's right. No, I guess the only time. That's true. Especially in America. All right. We are on Halacha Hey. Halacha Vav. Halacha Vav. Okay, here too the Kavanoki divides up this mission into two. On a Tios Vad Louis, it's starting to talk base. So we said need to have 10 saplings in a base in order to plow it right up to Erev Rosh Hashanah. So the gourds join up to make the shiur of Netios, meaning 10. Even if you have 10 gourds altogether, the base saw, Chorshin Kol Beis Saw, Rosh Hashanah, you can plow the entire base saw until Rosh Hashanah. Now let's go to the Gemara. Vushu and Atios Rabos Ad Luid. This is as long as there's a majority of the according to Anakama, has to be a majority of Netios, meaning 6 Netios and 4 gourds. Rechina Breder Rav Hillel boy, Rechina Breder Rav Hillel, however, stated, Lo Mistabra B'Dlas Yavanis. It seems as it's only talking about a Greek Dlas. Now, in this case, means that the Greek gourd is overly large gourd. We have it in Kilaim already. So here it's talking about specifically in the case of a Greek gourd, not in the case of any other gourd. It says, well, wait a minute. Mona asked this, but tiny we learn a Brisa. Shlosha Kishuin, Shlosha Dlui environment, Atias Mitzdarfin. Even 3 regular squashes and 3 gourds and 4 saplings, they all join together, Chorshin Kol Beis Saw B'Shulani, and he could plow the entire base saw for them. And clearly the 3 regular squashes are not Las Yavanis, they're not Greek gourds, right? It should be Lo Asio Da Ella. The law here is a contraction. The law al Seifa, this is only going on the Seifa. That which Rabbi Chanina Braid Rabbi Hillel said, that it's a Greek gourd is going on the Seifa, meaning Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, Asar Luna Beis Saw, Chorshim Lan Kol Beis Saw Rosh Hashanah, where Shimon Gamliel said that even if you have 10 gourds exclusively, without any other type of tree, you can plow it into Rosh Hashanah. Allah, on that, Rabbi Chanina Braid Rabbi Hillel, boy, on that he said, Lo Mitztabra B'Dlas Yavanis. It doesn't make sense to say it, except by Greek gourds, because Greek gourds are larger, and therefore they're tantamount to saplings. And getting back to the Mishnah now. To what stage are they called saplings? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, until they become I want to say profane, but that's not a good word in this case. Until they're deconsecrated, right? Which Kumar is going to ask is that during the 4th year when they're already allowed to eat, or during the 5th year after they're no longer require chilul, right? When they're no longer net a revai. So which is, Kumar is going to ask that. Rabbi Shmuel Meir Bas Shevish, Rabbi Shmuel says they're saplings for the first 7 years of their existence. Akiva Meir Netios Kishma, it's like the name implies, it's only during the 1st year, not subsequently. Ilan Shenigmam, a tree which was cut down to its stump. Voti Chalifin, and then it regrew. Mitavach Lamata, if it's lower than a tefach, then if it was cut lower than a tefach, then it's called a netiyah when it regrows. Yitavach was cut higher than a tefach, then Ki'ilon, it's still considered to be like a tree, and it doesn't have the kulos, Steve Rabbi Shimon, all it's going according to Rabbi Shimon. Ma'u Sheichulu, what does Sheichulu mean? So I mean, Achivta until they're redeemable, which is in the 4th year, or Achiasuchul Me'alain, until they become chulin on their own, which is in the 5th year. Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Kini Masnisin is the way to read our Mishnah, Achiasuchulin Me'alain, until they become chulin on their own accord. V'yasa Karebi. This is going like Rebbe. Tani Rebbe Omer, Alpha B'Shamru B'nos Chamesh B'nos Sheish B'nos Sheva. You have Rabbi Shua? Okay, so the Rabbi Shua said, according to Rabbi Shua, so even though they said that it could be, that trees can become adults, so to speak, and leave the parameters of saplings when they're 5, 6, or 7, it doesn't mean that it's these statements are arguing each other, whether it's 5, 6, or 7. It'll be finding rather by grapevines which mature early, it's 5 years, Betainim by figs which mature later, it's 6 years, Bezaisim which mature even later, knows Sheva, it's 7 years. Because that may, so Lamais we see that the minimum age at which they become mature is 5, which is after the 4 of Neta Ravai or Kam Ravai. Vai! Avan and Chamya, don't we see Adam Revisa Teinosa, a tree of Teina, Asya of a Pere, comes with fruit in an earlier stage, right? Even when Beisa means a young sapling, relatively young, you don't have to wait that long, 6 years. Says Moram Rabbi Yehuda Bar Tarfon Ovier, but it doesn't get thick. The trunk does get properly thick until it's 6 years old. Okay, mitafel lamata ki netia. That what you said that if you cut it within the top of the ground, it's like a netia. They both said the same thing. Damar Shmuel Bar Nachman b'shem Rabbi Yonasan, b'shem Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Shmuel Nachman said name Rabbi Yonasan, name Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Agomim es kanra pachos mitefach. Somebody who well, I should point out, it's not exactly the same thing. One is Midarais and one is Midrabanan. Rabbi Shimon is in our mission. He says that if it's below, it was cut within the top of the ground, when it grows again, it's in a tia. So that means you can plow it up to Rosh Hashanah, which is a kula d'oraisa. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, who's quoted here, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman's story about Din Rabbanan, which is the name Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Agoyim is karma pachos mitefach. If you cut your vinar within a tef of the ground, chai borla, but only mipnei marasayin, only because of marasayin, because it looks like it's a new tree. The Chacham say it's not chayiv in orla achilum mimaretz until you cut it flush with the ground. Then such a stump, when it regrows, is chayiv in orla, but not if you cut it within a tef of the ground. At that point, it's not your chayiv in orla. Okay, and with the first parak, second parak, it's considerably easier than Kilayim, I think. You get that impression?
It definitely is.
Yes. Adheim was saying, "Choshim v'sad I love an Eresh
Sure,
Shvi'is."
there's going to be some sort of trap later on.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. But Adheim was saying, "Choshim v'sad I love an Eresh Shvi'is." Until when can you plow a wheat field? Erev Shemitah. Until its moisture evaporates. Kozman, which is, according to Tanakama here, it seems, Kozman shebnei adam choshim litam mikshos idlos, as long as people are accustomed to planting by squash and by pumpkins.
When we're talking about the lake, is that, I'm just curious, is that irrigation, or it has to be?
No, not irrigation. No, this is talking about a rain-fed field. We're going to talk about an irrigated field in the Gemara. There are different parameters. Each every person can decide that on his own. When it's suitable time for himself. Ela b'sad love, and our parents Pesach we give exact times. By a grain field, it's until Pesach. B'sad ilan, where by an orchard, it's atzeres until Shavuos, as mentioned previous parak. Says more Matano Leicha, who's the Tana who says that the shear has to do with moisture. Rameir. It's Rameir. Ask more of Rameir. Could be Shammai. Is there Rameir like Beishamai? Well, actually, it's a statement which we're going to ask on in a minute. Rameir could be Shammai. Rameir was like Beishamai, who in the first parak said that the shear is way back at the beginning of the Masechta last night. He said that the shear is Kol's Matri Yafal Peri, as long as it's good for the fruit, which is a subjective shear. And Beis Hill was one who gave an objective shear, the shear of Shavuos. So let's say Beis Shammai is Rameir's Beis Shammai, Shimon is the Beis Hill, because he also gives an objective shear to Pesach. So ask the more of a Chena Sina Masnitin. Is this where Mishnah goes? No, is this where we set up a Mishnah? Rameir Beis Shammai. We never like making any Tana go like Beis Shammai if we can avoid it. El Rameir Mishnah Rishona. Rather, this is the way to learn. Rameir is like the Mishnah Rishona, where it's prior to the time they were matir to Sefer Shvi'is. So you have to pay attention to the to when the moisture would no longer provide sustenance for that year. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon is going like Rabbi Gamliel, that they uprooted to Sefer Shvi'is, so therefore they can go until Pesach. You don't have to pay attention to what's going in the field and possibly stop earlier. Says more that I don't like that either. That's where you learn a Mishnah. Rameir Mishnah Rishona, Rabbi Shimon Mishnah Achrona. The two Tanoim argue whether we all like Mishnah Rishona and Mishnah Achrona, like before or after the Takona. That doesn't make any sense. Either they both lived after the Takona was made, or both lived before the Takona was made.
Who's Rabbi Shimon, by the way?
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon is always Rabbi Shimon.
So he was much later than Rameir.
No, they were contemporaries.
They were?
Yeah, they both made Rabbi Akiva. Yeah.
Rameir, I knew I didn't know.
Ella, Rameir Shnov and Machlokas. Rameir learned that really our Mishnah is Chisuri Mechzer. It's missing a lot of stuff in our Mishnah. This is the way it's supposed to be learned. Both the Mishnah at the beginning of the Masechta and Mishnah here. Rameir Shnov Machlokas. Remember, I learned that there's a machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai about the shiur, and that Beis Shammai said subjective, Beis Hillel said subjective. Rabbi Shimon Shnoah Kedivri HaKol. Rabbi Shimon in both Mishnayos learned that there's no machlokas. That both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that it's Pesach by a Yisod Lavan and Shavuos by a Yisod Elon. Heve Montana Me'on Sai Chorshin Hasod Er Halavan Er Shevi'is.
According to Rabbi Shimon, what's machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel?
There is none. He learned there was no machlokas. It was a mistake. So who's the Torah says that Amos HaChoshes started loving Erev Shvi'is with all the accompanying machlokas of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, Rabbi Meir. But according to Rabbi Shimon, everybody agrees that it goes to Shavuos. Cause Machim Adam Choshim, as long as people plow for the moisture. Lo Sof Tover V'Shiesh Lo Miksho Mudle. There's not just talking about where he has he himself has squashes or gourds. Elafilu Ein Lo. Do you have Ein Lo? Well, I don't think so. What do you have? Okay, so it's afilu ein lo, even if he doesn't have me'achar b'nei odam, since other individuals are seemingly tamik shos, they're still literally means few going to, but here means they're still involved in their mikshos midlos, so that's considered to be a sign that everybody can still plow at that time for any of their grain-like things which are growing. Okay. Why is it all subjective? Because according to Rabbi Shimon's Tainer and Meir, this guy says my moisture is finished. And this guy says my moisture is not finished. So then everybody's going to have different shurim. Ella, therefore, in order to make things uniform, we said in general, we started 11 out of Pesach, in a grain field, so until Pesach, we saw the Elon out of Tzeres, and in a orchard, it's until Shavuos. What's the between Sada Love and Sada Elon? Sada Love, Aideshu Elon is a little bit of a difficult passage here. A grain field. Aideshu Asi Lazara Betchila. What this line means is not exactly what it means literally. Literally means, but because you're eventually going to plant it. But here what it means is, we know that your intent is to plow it for an eventual planting during Shemitah. Why? Because in order for a plowed field to grow, you need to have a generous amount of moisture. And you're not going to have any more generous amount of moisture anymore this year, right? So the generous amount of moisture is only going to come next rainy season, next year. So therefore, clearly intent is to plow it right now in order to prepare it for Shemitah, and that's why we forbid it. But it saw the Elon, she couldn't do a mikvah. You're not going to replant during Shemitah, right? Because it's an orchard. You don't plant from year to year. Therefore, you're not looking for the next year's rains in order to make it grow, and therefore your intent is not to raise a crop for Shemitah. Rather, your intent is now to, for whatever purpose, to plow for the positive present tree right now. What? Implied to right. That's what difference the intent is there. Right, exactly. That seems at least. Okay, says the Mishnah further. Halacha beis. Now here he divides it into two. Mezablin. First, the beginning part of Mishnah. You can fertilize, margin, you can hoe. Nikshos midlos by squash by pumpkins ad Rosh Hashanah up to Rosh Hashanah. V'chein beveis hashalchin, and so too in an irrigated field. One can plow until Rosh Hashanah because it allows the irrigation to distribute more evenly, even for what's growing now and not just for what's going to grow in the future. Miyablin. These are various different things one does with the tree. Shemar will explain, to remove warts, mefarkin to remove something else, mavkin to make it a belt, mashnin to smoke it. All these things do at Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Shomer afnotel olamina eshkol b'shis. You're allowed to take the leaves off the clusters in order to make them grow larger. You even allowed to do that during Shemitah. Okay, the Gemara is going to explain all these things. Malach Rosh line. Excuse me. What about to plow for the things mentioned in our Mishnah, right? The mikshos miglos. Is it just to hoe and to fertilize, or also to plow? So Tani, we learn kos manchad mutar l'lachrosh. As long as you're allowed to plow, you're allowed l'zabel to fertilize out there and to hoe. Which from this we deduce, ain't at mutar l'achrosh. You're no longer allowed to plow. Then ain't at mutar. Not allowed lo l'zabel. Not to fertilize, v'lo lader, not to hoe. Rabbi Yossi said, Masnisa Amar Kain, have a price this effect explicitly. Mizablin, you can put on fertilizer. Imagine you can hoe. Show some midlos by pumpkins and gourd at Rosh Hashanah. V'chein beis hashalchin, and so too by any other field which is watered by rainwater. The Tanya law we learned. I think beis hashalchin. I forget which one's beis hashalchin and which is beis habal.
What's the beis habal? Beis hashalchin is irrigated.
One of them is irrigated, one of them is rainwater. I think beis habal is rainwater.
Beis hashalchin for sure is irrigated.
Beis habal is irrigated. Okay, so that's what it is here. So irrigated. Oh, okay. Second parak, second Mishnah.
This hasn't provided much. Irrigated.
Okay, so now you can do mamish up to Rosh Hashanah, and the reason for that is that it needs a lot of work to keep it going because it doesn't have natural water. The Tanya law we learned about this kosher beis hashalchin Rosh Hashanah. You can hoe a beis hashalchin until Rosh Hashanah. Tanya we learned Rabbi Yomer alifnei Rosh Hashanah shlosh chodashim. You have to stop 3 months before Rosh Hashanah.
Here's a shlosh yamim.
You have shlosh yamim? That's a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
Shlosh chodashim makes much more sense.
Shlosh yamim doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense, yeah. Kadesh Yisra, enough time to plant. V'yashish, and for it to take root. V'yita, or plant trees, v'yashish, and for them to take root. Ask the Gemara. No. Okay. As for Avelu Osim Shloshim, L'Shlosh Yomim. So according to your gear, so it would be Bitmiyah. Do these things produce roots in 3 days? But according to my girsa here, which I see brings down the Chazanish support, it's the girsa is they do make roots in 3 days. So why wait 3 months, right? So Rabbi Yomer alifnei Rosh Hashanah. So it says more. No, Rabbi said about a different case. Rabbi Yomer alifnei Rosh Hashanah shlosh chodashim. You know why? We're talking about rice. And Kadesh Yizra Ores. The process of rice is first you planted it. V'yashish, and it took roots, and then you uprooted it and distributed it more widely. So and then Vita Ores V'yashish, you plant it again, and it has to take root again. So a process of growing, uprooting, and replanting until it grows again, that takes 3 months. And on that it says that you should plant 3 months before Rosh Hashanah, specifically going on rice. Yeah, but we tend to believe that it's rice and not Milo, which is the other millet or Milo, whatever it is. Okay, Miyablin. We are in the Mishnah. We don't know what it is yet. That you can do till Rosh Hashanah. What is that? What? You don't have the word Miyablin? It's a header.
Avkin osam avak, or the words before that. After you said v'yashrish.
Yeah.
Afterwards of v'yashrish, it says ma'avir nasa yavolas.
Okay, so that's miyablin. Okay. And ma'avir is supposed to remove reward from the tree. They should have mefarkin, which is ba'alin. You take off the dry leaves. Ma'avkin. That's what does that mean? Oslo avak. You make it a gartel. You make it a belt. Avak is a belt in Aramaic. You make it an avak. And
it's not dust.
No, it's not dust. Because that's with the next one. Ma'ashnin is masnina lo, you smoke it. The dust is used in order to smoke in order to get out the worms. Tani, we learned mechav. Well, we're talking about trees here.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Tani, we learned mechavnin. You can be mechavein, direct, umitzaded, and go sideways. So what does that mean? Mechavnin means mechavnin law. you attach to it like another tree to guide it to grow straight up towards towards the sky. Mitzadidin, what does it say mean? Chevraya Omrin, the Chevra said, Osilot Dukran, you make it like a sharp peg, but on an angle, so that the tree, instead of going up, goes sideways. Ravidah says you put a stone on the branch to hang the branch down, and then of course the branch goes sideways as well. Be that as it may, what we see here clearly is that our Mishnah is talking about a case where our Mishnah is talking about all cases where it's malacha, which can be done right up to Rosh Hashanah because they're advantageous to the tree. Okay, Tani, we learned mivatrin u'mishamtim. Now, this is talking about Erev Shemitah again, but we're doing something which we had in Kilayim, where trees are planted too close together, so you remove one of them in order for the rest of them to grow properly. So you do it right at the Rosh Hashanah. Kini Masli is the way to read the Brisa. Mevatri, the verb mevatri is used by grapevines. Meshamtin, and the word replace is used by kanim, is used by reeds. You should know there are even places where they permit you to remove the trees where it's too tight, where there's not enough room, on Sukkot on Shemitah before Sukkot. In those places where now why would we permit it before Sukkot? The car looks like you're fixing your tree during Shemitah. Why would you permit it before Sukkot?
Question.
Yeah, what is to answer it? What does it look like you're doing?
Well, it looks like, of course, you're preparing for a Shemitah. The question is why you...
No, that would be usher. Why is it mutter?
That's what I understand.
Yes, you do. You're going to kick yourself.
Okay.
Because what does it look like you're collecting the wood for?
I'm not going to... I don't know.
For schach.
That's what it looks like you're collecting.
Yeah. He doesn't say that, in all fairness, down here. But that's what makes it mutter, because it looks like, it doesn't look like you're making your field more suitable. It looks like you're collecting schach. Because you should know this is true, because even la'achar chag, even after Sukkot, right? Mevachim shamtin la'achar chag. If it's a place where the minhag is to do it after Yontif, you can even do it after Yontif. Okay, it doesn't, as long, and there, of course, you're using it. What would you be collecting the wood for there?
After the fact?
Yeah, not for schach anymore, but rather for construction. He says construction purposes. Okay, where are we inside?
We are Dalit and Aleph, 12 lines down. The beginning of the line.
Right? You don't leave that alone. Why do you have to leave that alone?
I spelled 15 lines.
Tell me. Even because of the appearance.
Okay, that when you're allowed to prune trees in this manner on Shvi'is to actually harvest logs. So you can only cut from above the first knot. I mean, the first knot on the tree, because it looks like clearly you're not doing it in order to improve your field, but rather, in fact, to harvest the trees. Okay, to harvest the timber. Right here, Hashem said, Rabbi Yaakov Barach, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi China, B'Shem Rabbi Chaim, Melcham, Rabbi Yoshi, all they was agreed to disagree with Rabbi Yirmiyah, to disagree with Rabbi Shimon. And they said, whenever you cut down a tree during Shemitah, what's the permissible situations, you're allowed to cut even the roots which come up together with it. In other words, you're allowed to completely cut it down for whatever purpose you're cutting it down. Rabbi Shimon says, you can even take, we said in the Mishnah, you can take, I forgot what he says, 1 minute. Noitos olim in Eshko b'Shvi'is. Allowed to take the leaves off the clusters of grapes on Shemitah. Mechava sheet say the Rabbi Shimon. This is a contradiction of Rabbi Shimon. She's in other places. Pnina Taman. We learned over there. Lassos memarsi be'ores b'Shvi'is. You're allowed to mix the water in the rice paddy around the rice on Shemitah in order to make it muddy because it's beneficial. Avalom mekaschin. But you're not allowed to take off leaves from the rice plants in order for them to grow better. Rabbi Shimon. Here Rabbi Shimon says it's okay. B'koa marachein. Says Marshani, it's different. Hacha Shumatu Kamatu Minat Leika. Over there, or rather I should say by us, then it's not going to cause it to grow better. Rather, it's like saving it from the detrimental effect of the grapes being covered by the leaves. So that's okay during Shemitah. Over there, by muddying the waters of the rice paddy, it makes the rice grow better. Doesn't just remove an impediment for its normal growth, but it makes the rice grow better. And now to make something grow better during Shemitah. Okay?
So you take off the leaves that are covering the grapes?
Then it's very
Obviously not. You just cause them not to be impeded to grow, but you're not giving any additional spurt of growth. That's what we're saying. Okay?
I would come on to saying that leaves, there's a difference between leaves when they're green and when they're getting old.
Maybe, but yeah, when they're getting older, it's called different malacha. It's not called this malacha of whatever we called it. So again, it depends what.
Almost like a direct versus
Yeah, the way I learned, it's the case of whether you're being meser monea. You're taking away the impediment for growth as opposed to promoting growth. That's all the same idea. Okay. Okay, now we're going back to the Mishnah. What line of the Mishnah we have to?
We are in
It says Masakli. 6 line of the Mishnah. Masakli and out of Rosh Hashanah. You're allowed to clear your field of stones until Rosh Hashanah. Mikar Samim, you're allowed to cut the dry branches off the tree. Mizardin, you're allowed to cut small moist branches in order that the tree should grow better. And Faslin, you're allowed to cut off all the branches, which is a severe remedy which sometimes they employ to fight tree disease, during Ad Rosh Hashanah, up till Shemitah's Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yeshua it's going to make an ambiguous statement. Whatever the parameters which occur to Zirud and Pisul, to this pruning. So whatever parameters apply when it's the 50, you're going to the 60, which means everything is mutter. Kachshos Chich is so to the 60, you're going to the 70, it's mutter as well. Rabbi Shimon Merkos Manchani Rashai Bavoda Sailan Rashai and Ipis as long as I'm allowed to work a tree, until hoary old age, I can not hoary old age. Tell you about Erev Shemitah. Not as long as he had the capacity to do it, but as long as he's allowed to work a tree. So then on Erev Shemitah he's allowed to. Well, I shouldn't say Erev Shemitah. The Gemara is going to talk about it. Well, I'm not going to get involved. The Gemara is going to explain exactly what it means. As long as you're allowed to work it, you're allowed to also to prune it. We learned over there. So he moves stones from his field. He's allowed to take off even the top stones as long as he leaves the ones which are on the ground. He's allowed to, even during Shemitah we learned. Here it says you're only allowed to take out stones till Shemitah. So here it says the exact opposite contradiction. So it says, do you know where we are? Going back to the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda said Khan, which in the Yerushalmi very often means Sham. There it's Betolush. It's where the stones are severed from the ground. So I can take the upper ones as long as I leave the lower ones. Khan, which here does mean Khan, it's where it's connected, and they have that type of work, which is more straight, more difficult. It's only permitted on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Okay. B'shur is Yeruda v'chule. Yeah. In my Gemara, they introduced headers. If you know Yerushalmi till now, there very rarely is a header. So this Gemara introduced headers. Rabbi Yosef said, "Havin sarvein meimar." We are taught to say, or I mean, it was Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yeshua b'kirsum. That Rabbi, just like Rabbi Yoshua allows kirsum even during Shemitah itself, meaning.
Comes to tell you that period says no.
No.
If you just wrote out, I'm going to go maybe period is also okay.
Yeah. That I was right. That Rabbi Yeshua allows kirsum even during Shemitah, and Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Shimon agrees with him. Being on trade to Einim. And Tanoim, and these two, there are only two opinions by Gerson. One which permits it, Tanakam, which permits it until Rosh Hashanah, and Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Yossi who say it's permitted even past Rosh Hashanah. Midatani, because we learned. So it says, however, since we learned Midatani Misakli ad Rosh Hashanah, since we learned you can only do in the Tanakama statement, they can only remove stones from field to Rosh Hashanah. Because we can only do these types of pruning, mefayz and mizardim, fasted Rosh Hashanah, kir Rabbanan. That's Rabbanan Shita. Rabbi Shomer Kizura Kipsulo Shel Chamishis V'chein Shel Shisis. Yeshua says no. Could even go to the next year, just like you have Chamir, the 15 or 6 years goes the next year. Harei Klosa Tanoinim. From this we deduce that since Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Shimon have different statements, so therefore it must be three different Tanoim. Misaki Rosh Hashanah, Mikaris meaning Misarim and Paslid. So therefore, when it says that you can stone into Rosh Hashanah and you can do this various different types of pruning out Rosh Hashanah, Kirabana. Just like in the 50th year and go in the 60th year, so to the 6th year can go in the 7th year. But can even do this malachas during Shemitah itself. Shimon America is very, very makmir because my training mutar rashai b'avodas as long as I can work my trees. Rashai b'sulo, I can do the pruning, but that's only v'hainu ad atzeres up to Shavuos and no longer period. He still holds the Tosef Shvi'is even by trees. Okay, halacha gimel. Now again, this one's divided into mizamin and sanatios. Mizamin means you can anoint them with oil, which has bad smell. What do you think bad smell oil does? Keeps away the insects, the worms here, it says. And you can insulate your garments. Insulate your tree with garments. You can cut off the tips of the trees in order they should grow taller. You can make for them houses with shade in order they should grow properly. It shouldn't be too hot in the hot sun. Umashkesam, you can give them to drink.
Right. But that's just one of the operative terms. But now we're saying both are operative.
What? Yeah, no, giving the drink means you can give them water your plants, but the Rashi says only through the foliage, not at the roots. Okay, normally when you water a plant, you water at the roots. Here you can only water the foliage. Okay? And then what I was going to say, because of Shinri. You do a Shinri. So it says, Rosh Hashanah, you can do the Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Tzadok says, actually, it's this the Tana who says it, not Rabbanan, sorry. Rabbi Tzadok Omer, Av Mashke Hu Es Hanop Shvi'is Avlo. You can only give the water to the foliage, not to the primary component of the plant. Okay, further. Going to the Gemara. Go skip down to the Gemara. Is it on the same page? Masnisa the Rebbe. This Mishnah is like Rebbe. Barank Rabbanan, because it says you have to stop Erev Shemitah. Barank Rabbanan, but according to Rabbanan, Afilu Shvi'is, you can even do the Ziyum, which means to cover it with oil in order to get out the worms during Shemitah itself. Itana we learn, Nizamin, you can rub oil on it, Mitali, you know the place?
We're on the
You only need one
to skip
phrase.
back
He
towards
says
the
we're
little-
Pharaoh's.
Sorry.
Why?
You have it now?
Mizamin, Metalin.
He started with the Zaman.
Yeah, but I think it's repeated in his Gemara now.
I guess it was the hell we get.
Why
Okay.
did you say Pharaoh?
The Tanya, Mizam, he has, do you have the Tanya?
In other words, the Mishnah said Pharaoh.
Read me the Gemara according to you.
Mizamin is a Natiyah.
Why did the
Yeah.
Masni to Rebbe.
Yeah.
Ram, Rabbanan, Mizamin, Matiyah, B'Shvi'is.
Pharaoh stopped it.
Okay, so he has a whole extra thing here, right? Barak Rabbanan, Filu B'Shvi'is, you can even do it on Shemitah. The Tanya, as we learned in the Brisa, Mizamin, you can do the zium, which means to wrap it with this bad oil. Metalin, you can remove worms. Bishvi'is on Shemitah. Aval lo b'moed, but not on Chol Hamoed. By the way, why not on Chol Hamoed?
It combines the one, but it's a secondary stage.
Yeah. What kind of malachas are also on Chol Hamoed?
But it's not coming to
Tircha is Seira.
That's not the
Anything which has a lot of tircha. But in any event, on Shemitah tircha is mutter. Just on Chol Hamoed, tircha is also. Right? So you can do all this stuff on Shemitah, even though you can't do it on Chol Hamoed. The Kamikad, but in both cases, both on Yom Kippur and on Chol Hamoed, aim Megazmin, which means you cannot cut the tree in order for it to grow better, with that which is called komin in their Mishnah. But you know what you can't cut down during Shemitah, even during Shemitah? Those parts of your tree which are stretching over Shusarabim, and literally people see them and they're impeding upon the progress of people in Shusarabim. Okay? No, it's your wood. You corner it when you take it down. Even using your fire, whatever. Rabbi Yassi said, Ravina asked for the following query. What's in the tree of Mizayim which is mutter, and to make it a house which is also? And he responded, to put oils in it is like putting a watchman on it to make sure no worms get there. Whereas bias, osolotel, it makes it a shade, and the shade is obviously beneficial for some trees, but you could it grows because of the shade, and we want to avoid giving you that advantage during Shemitah.
So the difference is helping it positively grow versus preventing.
Yeah, the way it's called in Hebrew, although we didn't have it here, the way it's called moy cotton, is that ukmei lana mutter avrui lana aser. To sustain the tree is permitted, to make the tree better is forbidden. Okay? Says we're going further. Tanina to Tamatrin, we learned over there. Hamavakeh bezayis, somebody who's splitting or cutting an olive tree to use for wood. Lo yechape ba'afar. So in that case, he shouldn't. The place where he cut, the limb off the tree, he shouldn't fix it with dirt. All he can use is straw and stones. Why is that? Rabbi Yasa, Rabbi Avina, boy, they asked the kasha mabin. What difference does it make you would use the whole plug up the gap? It says more kashin ain't major shomer. Straw only prevents it getting worse. Whatever you cut off. In other words, it's not going to cause an infection, a chves, whatever it is. However, afar, if you put dirt there on that place where the tree was cut, so then also Latina makes blood, it makes mud there. And the tree is going to grow as a result of the mud pack you put on it. So never put mud pack on a tree, or for that matter, any dirt which might become a mud pack. Okay, because that'll be avrui lana, not ukmei lana. Because to be healthy, it won't just sustain it. Rabbi Lezer Tzadok. Yeah, I have a header. Lezer Tzadok on Rechuli. Tanya, we learn. Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur Omer, Bishur Lezer and Shlomo Neir Lezer and Shua. That Beisharmi Mashkeh Walanof. We said according to Hashem, you have to make a shiur, you have to put the water on the foliage. So when you put the water on the foliage, it spills down to the roots. It could be either on the trunk or on the roots, or literally on the foliage or on the roots. It makes no difference. Since Yeshua was making a shinui, so in the house of Rabbi Yana, Mashka Basala, they used to water the field through a basket. That was the shinui, to use a basket. Have a mashke b'salo, you would give to drink in a basket. In other words, that was his shinui as well. First of all, he would put it in a basket, but besides that, he would be also. He brings down here.
In other words, payrolls out of law. Payrolls.
What?
The payrolls themselves in any year that they might grow.
Mashka Vasalia.
That's what out of law means. Payrolls itself out of law, right?
Vadar.
Payrolls itself out of law. I'm not taking myself away from it. I'm only taking myself payroll itself out of.
Yeah, what he would do is like this. He would spill the water into the ground at a distance from where he needed it, and then he would make irrigation canals. That's either the hoeing, in order to get the water to go to the right place. Because that was his shinui. As more of a chimis kavin lavodas oretz. What?
Like plowing?
No, the more is
It wasn't his intention, but it could, as a side benefit.
Yeah, but that's it. It was his kavan. It should be mutter. Adrab. Why do we answer it? So it says the Gemara. What? Yeah, well, the Gemara doesn't really answer that. Or just leaves it unanswered. But you're right. Obviously, it's a Maritain issue. We're slightly like Maritain. Rabbi Chia bar Abba. In there's Rabbi Chia bar Abba have a mashkin diklaya. They used to water the pumpkins. B'miknishta chareta v'chifarta, with a new white broom. Knishta is a broom which gathers dirt. So they use it like a sponge, I guess, to sponge up the water. Yeah, it's usually based kind of. What?
The Mishnah originally was talking about all these activities before Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about. This is not during Shemitah itself.
Yeah, but this is during Shemitah.
This is?
This last paragraph during Shemitah. Look back in the Mishnah. It says, "Av mashkasa no b'shvius." This is a shina which is allowed in order to water during Shemitah. Otherwise, this stuff is going to die. So this whole stuff is mutter during Shemitah. It's just got to be a shina. By the way, the broom, it's not to clean up the mess here. We're just being facetious. Is that clear? The broom is to squeeze out the water. That's the way you irrigate your field in this case.
So you dunk it in a bucket.
Right,
You go over to
right,
the plant,
right,
squeeze it.
right. Exactly. Okay? It's a pretty big machinery, right? Okay. Says going back to the Mishnah.
Obviously, the field, the original
Yeah.
Osel.
Oh, small, very small.
The Osel sponge.
Go back to the Mishnah. Sachin is a pagin. See that? Mishnah?
Yeah.
Okay, that means you're allowed to...
Middle of the line there. 56 line.
Yeah.
So it's a pocket.
How long is this Masechta, by the way? What are you going to have to how long? Yeah.
It's a while.
Yeah. The problem is that the next couple of Masechtas, they have this Kavanaki, so you're going to have to put up with this, because it is superior to the Stifler's Son in two ways. First of all, the parish is much shorter. Secondly, I mean, the Stifler's Son, the race was a vast improvement on the Pnei Moshe and Radbaz, but this is even shorter. And besides that, the text is actually better because of all the emendations. It's actually easier to read. I mean, it reads almost like a Bavli with all its pleasure to read the text the way they amended it. 31. The next one is a big one. If you take a look, Trumas is really big. It's like 60 blot. So on that I have this very fat Kavanaki. Yeah. Yeah. All right, getting back to the Mishnah. So, it's 2020 vision. So, Sarah is a pagid. You can you take unripe figs and you anoint them with oil in order to hasten the ripening process. Menakvin or something, you can pierce them and put oil into the holes out of Rosh Hashanah. What about it was unripe before Shemitah and Shemitah began? Or if Shemitah which went out to after Shvi'is, you're not allowed to anoint them in order to make holes in them and put the oil through the hole. Now, the chiddush here is that even though it's after Shemitah, and after Shemitah all malach should be mutter, nonetheless, in order that you should not forget that this fruit has the kedusha of Shemitah, because it started growing during Shemitah, so now allowed to pierce it and put oil into it. Place where there's a common minhag to do sicha, you're not allowed to do sicha during Shemitah because it's avodah. But I guess it's not a common minhag, so then it would be permissible, I guess. It's not clear to me, but I believe that's what he's saying. Oh yeah, here it is. There it is. In case where the place of minhag was not to be sach, there's sachin. It says regardless after Shemitah it's all okay. You know why? Because at this point all bets are off. You're allowed to do any work on the tree you want. Okay, back to the Gemara. Ona Tanina. We learn. Sachin as a pagin. You're allowed now to anoint the unripe fruit. Right, the very Rebbe. Ve'elam pagin erev Shvi'is, because shenichlu Shvi'is. These fruits are unripe figs from erev Shemitah, which go into Shemitah, and the way the Kavanoki explains it, that means that, and then you're allowed even to oil them during Shemitah itself. Rabbi Yochanan said, Rabbi Yochanan said that's only going like Rebbe. Rabbi Eliezer, Kamas Nisan. Our Mishnah is like Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you're not allowed to do it during Shemitah itself, only up to Rosh Hashanah and no more. I'll die to Rabbi. I'm sure if I'm reading that correctly.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I read that wrong. Rabbi Yochanan called it the Beitari Bei Rebbe. We just learned at the time of Bei Rebbe that if they were unripe erev Shemitah, can oil them during Shemitah as well. So Rabbi Yochanan said like that, which Rebbe said. Rabbi Eliezer Kamasisin that you can only oil them till Rosh Hashanah, not when Shemitah starts. I'll die to Rabbi Eliezer, according to Rabbi Eliezer, who said, learned our Mishnah Kipshuto, that's not mutar in erev Shemitah, it's only mutar in erev Shemitah, not in Shemitah itself. Lo ba Rabbi Yehuda Elohakil. Rabbi Yehuda said in a place where the minig is not to be sach, you're allowed to be sach even during Shemitah, so obviously he's makel. I'll die to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yochanan, however, said that their permissibility extends even to Shemitah itself, so then obviously you're allowed all places to oil during Shemitah, and that which Lobo Rabbi Yehuda Elohach, that which Rabbi Yehuda came and said that's only a place where there was no minute to be sach normally, so that's only going like Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe that teaches us that Rabbi Yehuda is machmir. He qualifies that it's only mutar and Shemitah in the case which he permits, which is a case where it's a place they're not normally accustomed to do it in such a fashion. Okay, to be sach the pagin. Okay, Allah Chadal. Einotim. One is not allowed to plant a tree, nor to run a runner of a tree into the ground and bring it up another place. Nor to graft a tree. Erev Shvi'is during Erev Shemitah, if it's less than 3 days for Rosh Hashanah. If he did yak or uproot it. It says only needs 3 days before Rosh Hashanah. Because then already took.
Takes hold?
What?
Means takes hold?
Yes. No. Means what? In other words, it either works. So grafts either work within the first 3 days or they never work. Okay? So really, you should have to check all the grafts to see if they worked or not. It's not 3 days, it's 2 weeks. But in any event, that probably will influence the amount of time that the tree has to grow before Shemitah begins. It's 30 days, 14 days, or 3 days, depending on what year we use. Rabbi Yisrael said, my mission is only about where you don't know. If you know for sure it took root already, then it's mutar, then you're allowed to sustain it even during Shemitah. I bet you don't have that header. See? Prophetic sports. Not even, it's in the coffee. Not even chule. Lo akar. What happens if he didn't uproot the tree like you're supposed to? Peiros of mine. What's with the peiros b'diavad? Rabbi Yasim, they were sitting entire some days when Jews were allowed there. Asuda kumei, on a case came in front of them. Rabbi Law said, if you kept the fruit of the tree up nonetheless, you shaflu peiros, so the fruit are forbidden, they have to be spilled out. Rabbi Barabba said, I wasn't counted among them in the aliyah, meaning the second floor, when they made this takana of when you can work till Shvi'is and when not. So if I don't agree with you, I never heard if this is true or not. So they said, let's go outside and let's try and find something for them to learn. They went out and heard. Rabbi Yehuda was saying, you can't add on to a gzeira. I mean, you can't add on the payers are also in the evet. Or Rabbi Yehuda top loy b'shem Rabbi Eliezer, you can't add on to a gzeira. Okay.
So he was upset that he wasn't included. They overrode.
But tonight he was right. It was right because the Bilah wanted to ask for the payros, and a mechachik say a there means that it didn't ask for the payros. So the tree was not approved, but the evidence okay.
Somewhere in Bavli where someone was up in the attic.
Yeah, this is a prevalent practice that's going to come back in Shevi'is again. Yeah, that's what they used to make. They used to make their things. Yeah.
Gomer Valias space.
Not so.
Or somebody.
Yeah. A bunch of them. Okay. We're going to come with
The
Katsu.
reason is because the second floor is the coolest. That is the reason.
The sun when they
It was configured that even though it's a higher floor, it was, I think it's the way they faced it or something like that. It was the cooling room.
They didn't have central air in the old days. They only had room air conditioners. So they only put in the second floor.
But that's what happens also in Navi. You have it with.
Yeah, they have Aliyahs that right in front. Yeah.
Eglo.
He was upstairs, but that was for the bathroom.
No, that's what he did.
I don't think he was upstairs.
No, that's where he's.
Was he? Oh, you're right. He was upstairs. When Ayud came, that's right.
That's the cool room.
Yeah, that's true. Aliyah is based on Makaret, Makairo, whatever it is there. Very good. That's right. Tanya Rabbi Yaakov, Noto Mace. That's a cool case. The guy planted improperly during Shemitah, and he died. God punished him. He got smitten down. But no, Mao Shambu to the Kaimo, can the kid leave the tree intact? Rabbi Yaakov, so he said, no, not to me. So guy planted during Shemitah dropped dead, but also the time of the sun is now allowed to keep it intact. But I said, come on, now this is unintelligible unless you know a Mishnah in Trumos. The question is, when is it also? Why is it also, I should say? Is it also because now people are going to be afraid that he planted it? Or is it because people are going to realize 4 years from now, when he's eating fruit from this tree, which should have been Neta Revai, that he planted it. So if it's Mivnei Chashad, the whole shiloh of whether you're allowed to keep it up or not is only going to the opinion that we look at the here and now, Mivnei Chashad, immediate suspicion. Because then, it might be immediate suspicion, but people might know, well, the father kicked the bucket, and it's the son now in charge, so maybe it's okay. I have a commander named Monin, but according to it says we're afraid of 4 years hence. People are going to retroactively say it was planted during Shemitah, happen no more, and that would be his case also by son as well. And therefore it would be forbidden to leave the tree standing. Okay, home stretch. Tanya, we learned. It's a little bit difficult, this Gemara. It doesn't matter when you plant or when you graft, that's be 30 days of Rosh Hashanah, before Rosh Hashanah. Now, when the last day of the year comes, also Shana Tmima, you get a whole year. What does it mean a whole year? Vis-a-vis Orla. I didn't remember this. Maybe we saw this once before. But Orla doesn't go by calendar years according to this. It goes by calendar years, not by birthdays. So if you have one day, the first year, that's already considered to be 1 year of growth.
But they count for the kings.
Right. And here we make it contingent. We say the fact that you got the 1 year, that allows you to make a mutar kaim shvi'is, you're allowed to leave them standing in Shemitah. But mishlosh, you don't leave there Rosh Hashanah. If it's more than 30 days to less than 30 days to Rosh Hashanah, also Shana Tmima, then the entire 30 days taking root, then there's never any time for it to be considered a year vis-a-vis Orla. Also the kaim shvi'is, so you're not allowed to leave it standing during Shemitah. Avul Amru, but they said, Peiros Natia Zu, the fruit of this sapling, Asura are for prohibited Al Chamisha B'Sar Shvat, until the 15th day of Shvat. Why? My time. Rabbi Yasser B'Shem Riel said it was Shana in a year. Machmamino. What are you learning from the word of a year? Uvashana. I'm Rabbi Zira Shol Shana Yelachem Arin Lo Yelchel Uvashana. And the pasuk goes on of Vashana Revius. Read Ashton like this: for 3 years it should be an orel, it should not be eaten, and in the 4th year as well. How is there such a case? So the case is like this: you planted Erev Rosh Hashanah. Well, let's make it a day ago. That's Erev Rosh Hashanah. Let's make it, you planted it Kav Ches Elu. Okay, so that's 1 month. Then another Rosh Hashanah, that's 1 year, 2 years, and another Rosh Hashanah 3 years. What happens though if you introduce instead of that, you say it's Tu B'Shvat, a year's over Tu B'Shvat, as there is such opinion which our Gemara is going like. So then it would be Tu B'Shvat. Yeah. And then 2. They still have to go beyond that. Okay? So, says Gemara, if you planned it before Rosh Hashanah, 3 months, a month, 30 days. So then, you get 1 day in this year, that's enough. And then you have 2 more years, and it's mutter. You plant after Rosh Hashanah, or if it starts growing after Rosh Hashanah, then you're really going to have to go to Tu B'Shvat of the 4th year. Right, you're going to have to go to Tu B'Shvat of the 4th year. So you have 1 year.
You have to have 3 Tu B'Shvats.
Right, you have to have 3 Tu B'Shvat. So it's Tu B'Shvat.
It's really the middle of the 4th year.
Right, so instead of being mutter, even at Rosh Hashanah over here, right, which is 3 years from the time you planted it, you still have to wait till the next Tu B'Shvat. Okay.
You can't mix and match.
You need to be 3rd Tu B'Shvat, which bad 4th Tu B'Shvat.
First Rosh Hashanah and then go to
Right, that's what we're saying here. No, you can't. And we learn out from the word uveshana, meaning that sometimes it stretches all the way into the 4th year, the prohibition of Orla. Okay? And that which Tu B'Shvat is matrid is when you plant the 30 days for Rosh Hashanah. So then you get 1 day the 1st year, then you get 2 years, and then the 3rd year only has to be till Tu B'Shvat. Okay? The 1 day before Rosh Hashanah joins with the last year until Tu B'Shvat. That works. Because that's less than 3 years, and that much of an advantage we give you. That's the most advantage you give to you. Well, you didn't plant it 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. So then, Isachame, let's come and see. Shana Shleima Lo Solo. In that case, we don't give him a whole year, right, before Rosh Hashanah. However, Tamar Achein, you're going to say that it has to wait till Tu B'Shvat in the 4th year? No, in that case, it's sufficient to give him 3 calendar years. Not like we said before, right? Said before that it has to go till Tu B'Shvat of the 4th year, right? He would just give him 3 calendar years. 1, 2, 3, and that's sufficient. He doesn't have to go to Tu B'Shvat that year. Okay? Says the Gemara, V'i Amarle said V'inkini. If you're going to say like that, you go from day to day. So I feel not to then always go day for day. What about our Mishnah, which says it's only past 3 days for Rosh Hashanah? The last day of Rosh Hashanah is considered to be a whole year. Our Mishnah makes no sense. If it's always going to be birthdays, so you should never give any advantage. Says the Gemara, Maikadun, what's the result of this? Ramana said, became a Chomei Toshnosa Shal Elon, since it's in the final year of the tree, that's why we give it Mashim Shnoso. It completes the year, so to speak. In other words, we don't need a full 3 years, because you hit, it's the Shver Svara, I don't fully understand it, but once you hit the right year, that's sufficient, and that's why if you began more than 30 days for Rosh Hashanah, it ends Tu B'Shvat of the 3rd year, we don't have to go all the way to Rosh
So instead of
Hashanah.
looking at the beginning part, you look at the end and say,
Right. He said, yeah, it's in the 3rd year. He calls it Tafasta Mua Tafasta. That's what he said. Right, that's enough. Right, in the 6th hour. Mixas Kishkula. Okay, that's enough for tonight, folks.